lot of scope for pharmacy graduates in the industrial sector too. To know more about the topic, research opportunities in industry, let's welcome our next speakers on the board, Ms. Richa Goyal ma'am and Mr. Mahindra Rai sir. Mahendra Rai sir is a regional thought leader in health economics and outcomes research with over 15 years of experience. At Evarsana, APAC, he heads the overall HEOR practice for the APAC region, including China and Japan. Sir is currently the president for ISPOR India, Mumbai chapter, and ex-chair for RWE Council of Indian Society for Clinical Research. He is also an adjunct faculty at Manipal Academy of Higher Education for Health Economics Postgraduate Program. We welcome you, sir and ma'am.
Thank you very much for that detailed introduction. I think I've sent a very detailed brief of mine. We'll focus more on what are the options for pharmacy and pharmacy graduates in industry, and then we'll also talk a bit about what is real world, what is HER, because these are some of the hot topics, and students need to understand what these things are, and if they can also try to understand more and inculcate some self-learning and try to understand more on these, try to get into any internship programs in real world or HER. So that is what we would like to have a takeaway for all of you from this session. So with that, I'll share my screen. So I do have a presentation that I want to share. So I believe my screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes.
So we'll talk in detail about industry overview, the job trends for pharmacy students, and also we'll briefly introduce what is RWE and HER. So we'll quickly move on to trends in pharmaceutical industry, and this is important for all of you to know, because these trends decide what kind of opportunities will come in pharma industry, what kind of jobs you can look for, and what are the changes in the job patterns or the job categories which are going to be there in next 2, 3, 5 years. So if you see, the pharmaceutical industry is expected to increase to $1.5 trillion by 2023. So that's huge. It's like equal to GDP of India. So approximately 38% of the industry experts expect big data to have the greatest impact in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's why we want to talk about real world data, what it is, so that you understand. And if 38% of the industry experts say that big data is going to have a lot of impact, that means this is the next big thing. So you should understand what real world is, what health economics is, and how it is going to impact the overall scenario of industry in next 5 years. Also, there are more than 450 medications which were withdrawn over the last 25 years due to adverse events. So precision medicine is the next big thing as well, and thus it is expected to be an integral part of change in the industry. So precision medicine, targeted medicines, personalized medicines. So these would be some of the key focus areas, and all the research would be focused towards that. And then also there are 66 biological patents in the US that are going to expire from 2021 to 2025. So, as a result, the FDA will anticipates an increasing number of biosimilar applications. So that means there will be a trend in a lot of biosimilar development, and a lot of indigenous companies like Biocon, Cipla, Sun Pharma, they would be investing into research which would be targeted to develop more biosimilars. So then that kind of opens up R&D portfolio in even the indigenous companies, and not just the MNCs, but also the companies which are homegrown, which are Indian companies, pure play Indian companies. And then last one is pharmaceutical companies can also speed up to $100 billion per year kind of savings on recalls that are linked to labeling mistakes. So uh, uh, this again kind of gives a lot of scope for work like pharmacovigilance, or even the real world data from which any label expansions and labeling mistakes can be taken care of. So these are some of the trends which are going to decide the future of pharma industry and the kind of job opportunities that you can expect in pharma. Moving on quickly to career options. So I think some of the parts have been taken care of. I'll talk about the ones which we have not heard about since the start of the session. So as part of the pharmaceutical industry, you can kind of look at the KPO. Give me a second. I'll just put my laser pointer on. Yeah. So as part of the industry profiles, so KPO is basically knowledge process outsourcing, and there are a lot of companies which are there in this domain. And these companies typically do pharmaceutical consulting. So this would be business consulting, or they're into medical writing domain. So one example would be Canap's. Seniors has acquired that. Then there are a lot of companies which are into competitive intelligence. They look at the competitors which are available for any product, and then try to evaluate that. And then HUR. So we will talk about HUR in detail. And then you have digital health and analytics, and this is again a new area which has emerged in last 2 3 years. So you must be aware of a lot of online platforms like Practo, 1mg, Healthplex. So these platforms, they have a lot of patient level data, and they also are using AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data mining skills to kind of extract a lot of patient level data and do some analytics over that data, and then provide back this analytics to the healthcare system so that any improvements can be done. So it's a complete ecosystem of digital health and analytics that is there, and there are a lot of opportunities with these players as well. So I named few companies. Other companies include THB, Wealthy is there. So they are investing more and more into the digital health and into the analytics piece. CROs, I think it's already covered, but as part of CROs, real world evidence is something that we will take it up, and it's an overlap between KPOs and CROs. So some of the KPOs, they do real world work, which is aligned to HUR, and some of the CROs also, they do real world work. So we'll talk about this in detail. Government sector, I think Dr. Krishna has already spoken about all these opportunities in detail. When we talk about a core pharma company, so as part of a core pharma company, there are opportunities in research and development. So I gave example of biologicals. So if there is a need of biologicals, and a lot of biologicals will be developed. So our indigenous companies like Sun Pharma, Vocard, DRL, they would invest a lot in developing these biosimilars as part of R&D. So there will be a lot of opportunities in research and development. There are opportunities in medical affairs, which have been spoken of. Opportunities with regulatory affairs, wherein you can work on different kind of filings, product filings, patent filings. So that is part of regulatory affairs. Then pharma commercial. So this has more to do with the sales, marketing, product management, product marketing teams. So that is the commercial business part. And then business development, which is again doing business with a lot of institutional accounts, getting market access work. So that's these are some of the opportunities that you can get with core pharma. Academics, I think this is again has been covered by Dr. Krishna. So these are some of the opportunities that you can look at from a pharma perspective. So either go to core pharma, or you can go to a KPO or a consulting firm, or CROs, or companies which are more into digital health. So these would be four different kind of companies that are there to kind of offer profiles, job profiles to candidates who have done pharmacy, who are pharmacy graduates, postgraduates, or PharmD students. So these would be the opportunities. I think one question that comes to everyone's mind is, okay, we know these are the companies, but then how do we apply? So the first thing is you have to make that effort. You have to build your brand. So when I say build your brand, have your profiles on professional sites like LinkedIn, have your profiles on Naukri, Monster, LinkedIn, these sites. So you have to build your brand. You have to be visible. Try to connect with more and more people. Reach out and communicate with the people who are in your area of interest. So if you are interested in research and development, try to find people who are in R&D in industry. Reach out to them, communicate with them, understand with them if they have any opportunities for internship where you can go and work with them. Attend workshop and seminars. So I think you all are currently doing one, but yeah, this is the way. So then you get to know who are the people whom you can connect for any kind of if there is a research interest in that particular area. So that kind of helps. You have to build your connections. So yes, build those connections, write to people, connect with them, create your profiles on all the professional sites like Naukri, Monster, LinkedIn. Campus placements. So if there are campus placements which are happening, so be a part of it. There are certain companies like TCS which will always do placement drives. So they will open multiple positions for, say, pharmacovigilance, and they will ask people to come down and give interviews. So uh, keep your eyes open, eyes and ears open. Try to see when these drives are happening. So that is one way to be kind of become eligible. So if you reach there, you get interviewed, and then you are eligible for the position. And then internal references. So create that network. Try to identify who are your seniors or knowns in different companies. try to send your CVs through them, because if you are simply replying to a job post, probably on a job post, you get multiple CVs. So one example I'll quote, I kind of posted for one job on LinkedIn and I received around 550 CVs. So probably I might not even go through all the CVs, but if a CV comes through one of my team members, I'll definitely see that CV. So it's very important that you should identify internal reference and try to kind of send your CVs through internal references. So these are some of the ways how you can increase your visibility and increase your chances of getting a job in industry. So quickly moving on to RWE, and I'll not take much time on that. So what is RWE? So RWE, you need to understand these three terminologies, which is real world data, real world insights, and real world evidence. So real world data is the patient level data which is not collected in conventional randomized control trial, and this would include examples like electronic medical records, claims data, mortality data, consumer data, registries, data collected in observational studies, chart reviews. So these are different sources of real world data. Then what is real world insights? So when you generate any insights from these real world data, using any appropriate scientific or generated commercial analytics, that is called real world insights. So when I look at trends from data, those would be the real world insights. And then is real world evidence. So real world evidence is again insights which is generated from real world data with appropriate scientific and or generated commercial analytics, but it is with the intention to support a claim or a belief, to produce evidence for multiple stakeholders. So when I analyze some data and I do have some hypothesis in mind and I want to prove that, so that would become a real world evidence and not just insights. So those are some of the terminologies. And quickly looking at how it is different from a clinical trial. So a clinical trial is essentially a protocol driven study. So whatever is mentioned in the protocol, we go by that. Whatever is dosing time, whatever is the dosing schedule that is followed, regimen is followed, so all happens as per the protocol, inclusion happens as per the protocol. But when the drug is marketed, so you'll see that the drug is being consumed by different kind of people, different dosing schedules are there, different concomitant therapies are there. There's a difference in the managed care influence. Also, there is a off-label use. So there is variation in the drug usage, and similarly, there is a variation in the population characteristics as well. So in clinical trials, maybe children were not part of the clinical trial. Even pregnant ladies would not be part of the clinical trial. But in the real world setup, the drug would be used by pediatric population as well, even geriatric population, pregnant women. So that is where this real world evidence gets generated. So if you analyze this data with this kind of patient population, what you generate is the real world evidence and the real world outcomes. And one of the regulated things is the post marketing studies or safety efficacy studies, which are called PMS studies. So these are regulated and the results need to be submitted to DCGI. But again, these are done in the real world setup and on a larger population. Different sources of real world data. So real world data you can get from claims data, you can get it from EHR EMRs which are available with different hospitals. You can get it from registry studies. So Dr. Ajit spoke about one of the big registries. So these registries generate a lot of data, which is a good source of real world data, and also social media. So you see a lot of patients that talk about their side effects, their perception of the treatment. So even that is data which is coming out. It may not be scientific in nature, but then it is patient reported data which is coming, and even that is kind of useful for any kind of analysis. These are different sources of real world data. So you see it's coming from different sources, including variables as well. And here I'm trying to kind of depict what is the real world ecosystem for any pharmaceutical company. So a pharmaceutical company will have R&D department, they will have medical affairs, they will have HUR, they will have commercial function. And these are different sources of real world data. So charts, registries, social media, and this data kinds of feeds into different departments. So every department is using real world data in some or the other sense. So that's why understanding of real world data becomes very important, because you join a pharma company in any of these department, you will have to deal with real world data. So understanding of what real world data is, what different sources are, is very important. My last slide on what real world data and differences are. So I'll quickly kind of put everything together. And how it is different from a randomized controlled trial. So in objective of a RCT is whether the drug works, and in RWE you see does it work. purpose for RCT is to gain regulatory approval, whereas for RW it is to influence the clinical practice. So when prescribers are looking for more local data on the drug's effectiveness, its safety, so these studies can then provide that additional data which is beyond the clinical trials. Uh, Interventions, fixed regimen, here RW it is flexible because it is in the real world scenario, so it is completely based on the clinical judgment of the prescriber, and any dosage that they feel is good, they will prescribe that. External validity. So the results of a randomized controlled trials, the validity is low to medium, because if it is done on a very specific population, then you cannot generalize the results. But for RWE, the population will be heterogeneous. So you include pediatric, geriatric, adults, everyone is there. So it can be kind of generalized to all and everyone. So that's largely how RWE is different from RCT, and even also how it complements the RCT data. So it is always complementary to the data which is coming from clinical studies. So that's in a nutshell what real world evidence is. And I'll ask Richa to present on the HUR part, which is again very important, and it also uses real world data for some of the activities. So Richa, over to you. You can share your screen.